Hi, everyone. Welcome to our little Facebook Live broadcast. Whether you're catching it on Facebook Live or you're catching it on our podcast or on our YouTube channel afterwards, we are Sonika here, and my name is Christian. We're the founders of the LoveWorks Solution, and we were just making sure our hair was great before we got on here, but that's almost impossible. So we're just gonna do it anyways.
I know, especially these days where you can't get haircuts and stuff.
I know. I'm like, what am I gonna do? I can't. I'm gonna look like Santa Claus in a month if I don't do something. Maybe
So,
not.
hey, one of the things we wanted to talk about today is a prevalent experience for a lot of people is feeling really scared. So some people are really scared about getting the coronavirus and are doing everything they can to wipe everything down for I was talking to somebody yesterday. They spend like a couple hours a day cleaning. And some people are really scared about getting exposed to the coronavirus by somebody else, and so they're really afraid of their connections and relationships and how close they get to other people and where they go and where everybody else has been.
Yeah, another common way we get afraid is just afraid of my own abilities to handle what's coming, handle the uncertainty that's coming and the new demands that are on me. The situation like this where we all get, depending on your situation, there are extra challenges that are, extraordinary compared to your usual challenges. And it pushes those little buttons we have inside that has us doubt whether we're adequate or enough or has what it takes. I
And
was
some of us are really scared too, just about money. A lot of people are losing jobs, and people have a lot of uncertainty about how they're going to be able to pay for their bills.
right, and whenever we do get afraid, whatever the reason, just the element of fear in me has an immediate impact on how I feel about myself and my future and how I show up in my relationship. I was just coaching a woman this morning who got laid off from work, which is an experience that many are having, of course, and the increased stress and tension is really having an impact with her and her boyfriend, and they, who also has fears about the future and about money, and it just results in it's just way easier for them to have tensions rise to the point where they really clash and get into pretty bad arguments.
One of the things we know about fear, so we have our own element of fear that kind of shows up here and there in this whole experience for us as well. We're having to kind of rethink about our own business that is a live in-person business mostly. So we also have some fears and concerns about how all that is going to look on down the line. And we've also had scary situations happen in the past. There was in 2008, we were pretty profoundly affected by that whole downturn, and house went to foreclosure and lost a bunch of money in a Ponzi scheme. And so we know fear intimately. We know fear with the health challenges that we've had in our family. So one of the things that we have discovered about fear that we actually want to share is that fear mostly is a negative story we have about the future. It's a story we play out in our mind where things happen and we don't get what we want and we're not taken care of in some way.
Yeah, and it's not in any way saying that it's not in any way to diminish the actual concerns and challenges that are going on. There are, of course, lots of things to be afraid of. And in our experience, most of the time we magnify what is real fear and what there is to be worried about. And it's kind of like we make it bigger than it has to be, I guess I want to say.
One of the best questions somebody asked me when we were not sure during the foreclosure days if we were going to get kicked out in 3 days or not, is she asked me, she said, how do you know for sure you're not going to be able to handle that if it happens? And it was a really great question because I realized I really didn't know that it wasn't going to turn out, and I really didn't know if it did turn out the way I was fearing that I wouldn't be able to handle it. And it changed my perspective. And the other thing that we have found to be valuable around this whole fear conversation is not only questioning whether what we're afraid of is actually going to happen, or that we're not going to be able to handle it if it does happen. But shifting our focus altogether from worst case scenarios to best case scenarios.
Yeah, given that none of us knows what's going to happen, right? We don't know what's going to happen. And no matter how much news we consume, we still don't know what's going to happen. We're going to take the appropriate actions anyways, right? We're going to do whatever it is we can to make sure we have food and can pay our bills and use all the tools we have. When we increase our fear, it's like Sonika is saying, it's a negative story about the future. It's, we dream up worst case scenarios. And, for example, we might think, okay, my business is going to go tanking all the way. I'm not going to have any money. I'm not going to be able to pay any bills. We're going to lose the house and so on and so forth. We're going to keep arguing because it's so stressful in here that we might even lose each other. Who knows? We had a great coach once. His name is Max Simon. He always said, well, when you have these worst case scenarios, also look at what's a more likely scenario. And I'd say right now, given the information we have, I'd say a likely scenario is we're going to have some changes. Our life might be lived a little smaller for a while. And we are going to go back to normal. We are going to go back to a situation where we can go meet with our friends. We are going to find a way to have jobs and income. We are going to find a way. And so will everybody else.
One of the things I remember we heard once is worry is poor use of the imagination. And I just was talking to somebody yesterday. She said, I used to be so scared of my husband getting a heart attack. And he did have a heart attack. And he died. And, she was kind of sharing, like all that worry didn't prevent it from happening. And truthfully, she did deal with that very painful, unfortunate experience. And that was like 9-10 years ago. She's on the other side of it. And she was kind of equating that to what's happening right now. Like, it's not like worry necessarily better prepares us for even if those bad things do happen. So there's a couple of different ways you can play with and use fear. So one, actually, I heard a really great TED Talk once. I think it was called fear setting instead of goal setting. And it was the suggestion there, which I have found valuable for myself sometimes too, is imagine the worst thing happening and me being the hero in the story. Like somehow I am able to handle it and I'm able to make lemonade out of lemons. And, somehow I take like this horrible thing and I turn it into this really great new possibility. And really to write out like, if worst case happened, how could I still be the hero in that story? How could I still have it turn out? And a really great thing happens when I do that is when the worst case happens, I can kind of let go of worrying about it, and I really let myself play it out all the way.
I know we used to do that when we were in danger of our house went to foreclosure. We basically lost all our shirts back in the last recession. And we used to do that. Like we'd play that out. Okay, if we do have to leave our house, then what? We're going to call a bunch of friends and we're going to figure it out. Like we came up with ways that we would solve even our own worst case scenarios, and that helped us relax.
It totally helped us relax.
And
go ahead.
I wanted to give another thing I wanted to bring is the fear we do have. It has a good intention buried inside of it. I did some work around this in my men's group last night, where I feel my own fear about the uncertainty. And if you really knew me, you'd know I'm someone who even under the best of circumstances, I still have a pretty sharp voice in the back of my head that tells me I'm a schmuck and that I'm not doing enough and that I'm not successful enough and big enough and powerful enough and so on and so forth. And that gets activated in these times of uncertainty. And I feel the fear in my gut. And I know it has an impact with you and me because I show up as I'm just a grumpier kind of person and more, easier, shorter fuse. And I don't like how I show up, and I know you don't like it either, for good reason. So one of the ways I dealt with that is look at what's the positive intention in this fear, because it's wanting something good for me. That's my theory. And really for me, and the short version of that is it's wanting to keep me motivated, to make sure I don't go to sleep. It's wanting me to stay in action, to make sure I don't just sit down and give up. It's kind of like this little internal kick in the butt that says, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I want that too. So in that way, my fear is my ally, you could say.
And when you connect with the positive intent like that, which I really see in you, and when we connect with that, we can kind of relax into it as well, like not move with the fear like it's bad. It actually has this really good intention for us, and when we can kind of drop down and connect with that positive intent, then we can move more from it than from the fear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and for those of you who are couples out there, it's really important that the fear you do have, that you don't let it come out as blasting your partner, because that's often, like, I'm one of those people where my fear is often felt as anger first. And if I don't check myself, it's really easy to have that come out on anybody who's in my vicinity. And, these days that's Sonika, because we're the ones who live in this little box together. So be really mindful, do your best to not let your fear and anger be directed outwards at your partner. It's okay that you are afraid. It's okay that you feel angry. Just don't take it out like that. Share it in different ways. Maybe that's a topic for a whole other show here.
Well, and just the last thing we'll share with you here is, this has been a really fun game for us, is to play with, using that imagination instead of directing it towards worst case scenario thinking, is actually play with best case scenario thinking. So one of the games we like to play is, wouldn't it be great if, and we just complete that sentence and we kind of go back and forth.
I know.
Wouldn't it be great if our business, could get reshaped to reach even more people out of this breakdown, that we're experiencing currently.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if this was, this was an impetus for me to be even closer with my family back in Denmark?
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if this whole new way of interacting with each other opened up even more possibilities for us to co-create with people who don't live locally?
Wouldn't it be great if we finally learned that dance we've been dreaming of dancing? Maybe we could do it on YouTube ourselves. Wouldn't it be great if humanity learned all these new ways to connect and look at how we're the same as opposed to fighting each other? Wouldn't it be great if we came up, if this was the impetus for whole new vaccines and big breakthroughs in medicine that would help people all over the world? Wouldn't that be great? And some of all the things we're saying here very well might come to pass.
So we would encourage you to play with that. It's a great mood enhancer to just start shifting it around, as well as these other couple of tools. It just might make a difference for you in being able to be with the fear in a way that doesn't take you out, into panic mode, but really be able to soften into accepting it, appreciating it, using it, and being able to even use it to create the opposite of it.
Yeah. So do your best to use any of those tools to play with how to have a better response and a better experience in the face of fear. And it'd be fun to hear. You can share in the comments, put in, what's your best tip for how you deal with the fear that shows up? If you got a good idea, put it in the comments. We'd love to see that.
All right. And hey, we have total empathy and compassion for, it can be real scary times, and how to use that fear to good purpose.
Yeah. Until we meet again tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time here on the Facebook page. Take really good care of yourself and each other.
Yeah. Take care of